The world has always seen Keanu Reeves as a man of calm strength, a man who carried silence like a shield and kindness like a sword. But hidden behind that calm face was a story that not many dared to tell, a story of love, loss, and memories that stayed alive long after the moments had passed. When Keanu spoke about Jennifer Syme, or even when he simply remembered her in silence, people could feel something powerful. It was not just about two lives connected for a short time. It was about the kind of bond that reminded everyone how fragile and precious love truly is. In the soft glow of a quiet evening, Keanu sat alone by a window overlooking the city lights. The noise of Hollywood felt far away. He was not thinking about fame, films, or fortune. His mind was somewhere else. He was remembering Jennifer. She was not there anymore, but her presence lived inside his heart. Every flicker of light on the glass reminded him of the way her smile once lit up even the darkest days. He whispered to himself, not for the world, but for her. You are still here. Jennifer had been more than just a chapter in his life. She had been the one who gave him a reason to believe in love when his heart had been surrounded by walls. She was full of life, laughter, and a spirit that felt like sunlight. Keanu, who often hid his emotions from the crowd, had opened his heart for her. They shared dreams, they shared quiet nights, they shared music that made them feel like the world was slowing down just for them. But life is not always kind, and love does not always get to stay forever. Tragedy came like a storm, breaking everything in its path. Jennifer was gone, and the world expected Keanu to return to the screen, to carry on, to smile for cameras. But what no one saw was the man who returned to an empty room, the man who sat at night with silence as his only companion. His heart carried both love and grief, and that mixture was heavy. People often spoke about how strong Keanu was, how humble, how kind. They admired the way he treated strangers, the way he gave respect to everyone from a co-star to a stagehand. But very few understood that this kindness was not only his nature, it was also his healing. Every act of humility, every gentle word, every moment of patience was his way of carrying the memory of Jennifer. He lived with the thought that if he could spread kindness, maybe the world would hold less pain for someone else. And yet, even in his quiet life, there were moments when memories returned like waves too strong to resist. He would think about their conversations, the laughter that used to echo in small apartments, the dreams they never got to finish. Sometimes he would sit with old photographs, tracing her face with his eyes, and wonder what life would have been if time had given them more days together. But here is the twist that touched everyone who came to know about their bond. Keanu never used grief to close his heart. Instead, he used it to keep it open. He believed that even if life takes away, the love you once shared does not die. It stays in the way you live, in the way you treat others, in the way you face the world. Jennifer had become part of his spirit, and that spirit guided him to be softer, calmer, and stronger at the same time. The world first saw small signs of this when people shared little stories. Fans noticed how he would stop to talk to strangers, how he would listen more than he spoke, how he gave without expecting anything back. People thought it was just his personality, but those who knew the deeper truth understood. It was his way of honoring Jennifer. Every act of kindness was like a silent conversation with her, a promise he kept alive. And so, when Keanu and Jennifer's memories became known to the world, it was not just a love story. It was a reminder. It showed people that life can be unfair, but the bond you create can outlive the hardest tragedies. It showed that humility, respect, and resilience can turn pain into strength. It showed that even silence can speak louder than words when it carries love. The story of Keanu and Jennifer began with beauty, faced storms of sorrow, and left behind lessons that touched millions. But this was only the beginning because their bond was not one moment. It was many. And as the world leaned closer to hear how it unfolded, hearts realized they were about to witness something that would make them believe in love again. The world often sees love in the bright moments, the smiles, the laughter, the times when everything feels whole. But the truth is, the strength of love is tested when shadows arrive, when silence replaces laughter, and when loss tries to take away what once felt eternal. Keanu Reeves knew this truth more than most. After Jennifer's passing, people expected time to heal him, as if grief was something that could be measured by days or years. But grief does not follow rules. It comes in waves. Some days it is quiet, like a soft ache in the chest, and other days it crashes with such force that it leaves you breathless. Keanu felt both. He could smile on a movie set, but when he returned home, the silence reminded him that someone was missing. There were nights when he sat with music playing low in the background, songs they once loved. He could almost hear Jennifer's voice humming along. Those were the moments when memory felt alive, and it was both beautiful and painful. He wanted her close, yet he knew she was far. The world could not see these nights, but they shaped him in ways that were deeper than fame could ever reach. Keanu began to carry her presence into his daily life. He did not speak about it often, but in small, quiet ways, he honored her. If he saw someone struggling, he would pause and help. If someone spoke with him, he would listen with full attention, as if that moment mattered more than anything else. He did not rush, he did not ignore. Every act of patience became a reflection of what he had learned through loss. People around him started to notice. A fan once shared how Keanu offered his subway seat to a tired worker, sitting quietly in the corner afterward without drawing attention. Another story spread of him buying lunch for a homeless man and spending time talking with him like an equal. These acts were not staged, not for cameras, not for fame. They were born from the lessons of grief, from the love he carried for Jennifer. But the story had another layer that made it even more powerful. Jennifer herself had been known for her kindness. She had a way of seeing people not for what they had, but for who they were. She believed in love, in friendship, in giving light even in small ways. And now, years after she was gone, Keanu was keeping her spirit alive by living the way she once did. It was as if their bond had not ended with time. It had transformed into something the world could feel through him. Still, there were struggles. Keanu often wrestled with questions that had no answers. Why had life taken her so early? Why had their time been cut short? He knew no answer would ever make sense. But he chose not to let those questions harden his heart. Instead, he let them soften him. He carried the pain, but he also carried the love. And that combination gave him a strength that inspired millions. In interviews, when asked about love or loss, Keanu's answers were often short, but they were powerful. Once, when someone asked if he believed people we love are still with us after death, he paused and then said quietly, "I believe they miss us." Those few words shook the world. They came from a place of truth so raw, so pure, that people everywhere felt them. It was not just a statement. It was a window into his heart, and through that window, the world saw the bond he still shared with Jennifer. The bond between them was no longer about presence. It was about memory, spirit, and respect. And that bond reached beyond their lives, touching strangers who had never met them. People who had lost someone they loved suddenly felt less alone. They saw in Keanu's journey a reflection of their own pain, and they found comfort knowing that even in silence, love could remain alive. As days turned into years, the world realized something important. Keanu's story with Jennifer was not only about tragedy, it was about resilience. It was about finding strength in the darkest places, about turning grief into kindness, about proving that respect and humility can carry us through the hardest storms. And as the story of their bond continued to unfold, more secrets of love and memory were waiting to be revealed. Moments that showed the world how even when life takes someone away, love can still stay, and sometimes it shines brighter than ever before. Grief has a way of teaching lessons that joy cannot. Keanu Reeves learned this truth each day as he walked through life carrying both love and loss in his heart. The world often saw him as a man of strength, but his true strength came not from hiding his pain, but from living with it and transforming it into kindness. Many people believed that after tragedy, he would close himself off forever, but the opposite happened. Keanu chose to open his heart in quiet ways. He did not shout about it. He did not make speeches about suffering or healing. Instead, he showed the world through actions. He gave his time, his respect, and his presence to those who needed it most. There was a story of a day when Keanu walked into a bookstore. He moved slowly through the aisles, his hands brushing across titles, searching for something unknown. A young man standing nearby looked nervous. Finally, the young man whispered, "Sir, I lost someone I love. I don't know how to move on." Keanu turned, his eyes soft, and simply said, "You don't have to move on. You carry them with you." Those words stayed with that man forever. Later, he shared how that single moment gave him hope. It was in small, quiet encounters like this that people felt the bond between Keanu and Jennifer. She was gone, but through him, her memory touched strangers, offering comfort in ways she never could have imagined. The love they had shared was becoming a gift for the world. But there was another side too, the side of struggle. There were mornings when Keanu would wake and feel an emptiness so heavy it was hard to breathe. He would sit in silence, holding a cup of coffee, staring out the window, waiting for the pain to ease. Some days it did, some days it didn't. He was human, and in being human, he showed the world that it was okay to feel broken. In Hollywood, where faces are often covered by masks of perfection, Keanu's honesty stood out. He did not pretend to live a flawless life. When he walked alone through the streets or sat quietly on a park bench, people captured photos. At first, they called him Sad Keanu, but soon the world realized it was not sadness they were seeing. It was depth. It was a man unafraid to show the truth of being human, and yet, even in his quiet sadness, he radiated respect and humility. He treated every crew member on a film set with the same care he gave to his co-stars. He signed autographs without rushing. He stayed behind to talk with fans even when he was tired. Many wondered how he could remain so grounded. The answer was simple. He remembered what it was like to lose. He remembered what it meant to value people, because tomorrow was never promised. One night, after a film shoot, Keanu walked alone under the city lights. The streets were almost empty. He passed a small cafe, and the music drifting out reminded him of nights with Jennifer, when they used to talk about dreams and futures. He paused, listening, and whispered softly, "I still hear you." Though no one else was there to witness it, that moment carried a truth. Love, once planted in the heart, does not disappear. This is where the story took an unexpected turn. For years, people thought of Jennifer only as part of Keanu's past. But as time went on, their bond began to inspire others in powerful ways. Writers, musicians, and everyday people who had lost someone found strength in their story. They realized that grief could be more than pain. It could also be a path to kindness, to resilience, to living in a way that honored those who were gone. And so, what started as a private bond between two souls became something larger. It became a reminder for the world. It showed that no matter how much we lose, we still carry love with us. And when we share that love through our actions, we keep memories alive. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us. Keanu's journey was not easy, but it was real. And in its reality lay the lesson that touched millions. Love never truly ends. It simply changes form. Life after loss is not a straight road. It is full of turns, climbs, and sudden drops. Keanu Reeves lived on that road every day. Some days were brighter, some were heavy, but in every moment he carried Jennifer with him. He did not speak her name often in public, but his actions whispered her memory in ways that the world slowly began to notice. One of the most powerful truths about grief is that it can either break you or shape you. For Keanu, it shaped him. It taught him patience. It taught him humility. And it taught him to value people over everything else. He knew what it meant to lose. And because of that, he understood what it meant to cherish. On film sets, this truth showed in quiet ways. While others hurried, Keanu moved with calm. When crew members worked long hours, he stayed behind to thank them personally. There was a time during the making of one of his films when he gave away part of his own earnings so the team could have better pay. No cameras captured it, no press release announced it, but word spread. People realized this was not just generosity, it was respect. It was his way of saying, "I see you, I value you." And behind that respect was the bond he carried with Jennifer. She had always believed in treating people with kindness, no matter who they were. By honoring others, Keanu was honoring her spirit. But even as he gave kindness to the world, he still fought quiet battles inside. There were nights when he felt the weight of questions that never faded. He would think about the child they lost, the future they never got to live, the family that could have been. These thoughts were like shadows. They came without warning. Sometimes he would walk alone late at night just to clear his mind, his hands deep in his pockets, his steps slow against the silence of the streets. In those walks, he often thought about how fragile life is. One moment can change everything. One loss can alter the course of years. But instead of drowning in that thought, Keanu found a reason in it. He believed that if life is fragile, then kindness is urgent. You cannot wait for tomorrow to show love. You have to do it today, because tomorrow is never promised. This belief became the center of his life. Fans began to share more stories of him waiting in long lines without using his fame to cut ahead, of him helping strangers carry bags, of him standing in the rain with fans instead of sending them away. Small acts, yes, but each act was like a message. Respect costs nothing, yet it means everything. And slowly, something unexpected began to happen. Keanu's bond with Jennifer was not only keeping him alive, it was helping others heal too. People who had lost loved ones found strength in his journey. They felt seen, they felt understood. He became a symbol of resilience, not because he pretended to be strong, but because he allowed himself to be real. There was one powerful moment during an interview. The host asked about what love meant to him after so much loss. Keanu paused for a long time. His eyes softened, and with a calm voice he said, "Love is always with us. Even when people are gone, the love remains. It becomes part of who we are." Those words traveled across the world, shared on screens and in hearts, giving hope to those who felt alone in their grief. This was the twist that gave their story even more power. Jennifer may have left this world, but through Keanu, her spirit continued to spread. Every kind gesture, every humble word, every act of respect carried her presence forward. It was as if their bond had expanded beyond two lives and had become a lesson for millions. And so, what began as a private love story between two people had become something larger. A story of resilience, a story of kindness, a story of how love can turn pain into purpose. Time moved forward, but for Keanu Reeves, memory was timeless. He did not measure his life by the years that had passed since Jennifer was gone. Instead, he measured it by the way her presence still lived in his heart. And even though the world saw him as an actor, a star, a public figure, he remained at his core something more important. A man who carried love and grief with dignity. Life around him was always busy. There were film shoots, interviews, red carpets, cameras flashing at every step. Yet in the middle of all this noise, Keanu stayed quiet. He was not chasing fame. He was not chasing power. He was simply chasing peace. And that peace came when he honored Jennifer in silence. Many people wondered how he managed to stay so humble while living in a world that constantly celebrated him. The answer was hidden in his bond with Jennifer. She had taught him to value truth, not illusions. She had reminded him that love mattered more than spotlight. Even after her passing, those lessons stayed with him, and because of that, no amount of fame could change who he was. There was a story from one of his film premieres. While the crowd cheered for him and reporters asked endless questions, Keanu noticed a young fan at the edge of the crowd. The boy held a small notebook and looked too shy to speak. Keanu stepped away from the cameras, walked over, and kneeled down so he was eye to eye with the boy. He signed the notebook, smiled softly, and whispered, "You are important." No headline covered that moment, but the boy would remember it forever. It was in these small actions that Keanu's true character shone. And though he gave so much to others, Keanu never denied his own humanity. There were days when grief weighed heavy, when loneliness knocked on his door, and when silence felt too loud. He faced those days honestly. He did not hide from them. Instead, he allowed himself to feel. That honesty made his story even more powerful, because it showed the world that strength does not mean ignoring pain. Strength means living with it and still choosing kindness. Keanu's bond with Jennifer also carried unexpected surprises. Sometimes when he was on set or traveling, he would meet people who reminded him of her. A smile, a laugh, or a gentle spirit would suddenly bring back memories. In those moments, he felt as if the universe was whispering, "She is still with you." These little signs became like gifts, quiet reminders that love never truly disappears. As his story spread, people from all corners of the world began to connect with it. Mothers, fathers, children, and friends who had lost someone wrote letters to him, thanking him for being open about grief. They shared their own losses and said his journey gave them courage. Keanu never responded with grand speeches. Instead, he often sent simple words of comfort. "You are not alone." This humility set him apart. In a world where many used pain to gain attention, Keanu used his pain to give others hope. He did not stand above people. He stood beside them. That choice created a bond not only between him and Jennifer, but also between him and millions of hearts who now saw their own reflection in his life. One evening, during a quiet conversation with a friend, Keanu said something that revealed his truth. "Grief doesn't leave you," he explained softly, "but neither does love. They stay together inside you, and they shape who you become." His friend shared that moment later, and it spread across the world. People felt the depth of his words because they were not polished lines. They were lived truth. This was the power of Keanu and Jennifer's story. It was not a tale of fame, not a tale of perfect love, not even just a tale of tragedy. It was a tale of resilience, of finding meaning in heartbreak, of turning silence into compassion, and of proving that even when life takes away, love still remains. And as the story moved forward, it was clear that their bond was preparing to show the world an even greater lesson, one that would touch hearts in a way no one expected. The bond between Keanu Reeves and Jennifer Syme had already shown the world that love does not vanish when someone is gone. But the deeper truth of their story was still unfolding. It was not just about how Keanu carried grief. It was about how he transformed it into something that touched millions of lives. Keanu often walked through life quietly, without asking for attention. But even in that quiet, people noticed him. They noticed how he treated everyone with equal respect, how he spoke with humility, how he paused to listen when others rushed. What most did not know was that these actions were shaped by the bond he carried with Jennifer. There was a moment during a film shoot that showed this clearly. A crew member had made a mistake, and tension filled the set. Some expected Keanu to be frustrated, but instead he walked over, placed a gentle hand on the worker's shoulder and said softly, "It's okay. We're all learning." The crew member later said that those words changed his life. It was not only about the mistake, it was about feeling seen, respected, and forgiven. That moment revealed something powerful. Grief had not hardened Keanu's heart, it had softened it. Instead of closing himself off, he used his pain to connect with others. Every act of patience, every kind gesture was like a silent way of saying, "This is how I honor the love I lost." But Keanu's journey was not only about giving, it was also about searching. He searched for meaning in the silence, for lessons in the loss, for hope in the memories. Sometimes he found it in nature. He would take long motorcycle rides on open roads, letting the wind carry away the heaviness in his chest. Sometimes he found it in books, in stories that reminded him he was not alone. And sometimes he found it in people, the strangers who shared their own grief with him, trusting that he would understand. And he did understand. Keanu often carried the weight of other people's stories alongside his own. When fans spoke to him about their losses, he did not respond with empty words. He looked into their eyes. He listened, and he shared their silence. That silence became more powerful than any advice because it told them, "I know what you feel, and I am here with you." Over time, something extraordinary began to happen. The love he had once shared with Jennifer was now living in a new form, through every life he touched. It was as if her presence was spreading through his kindness, reaching people she never met, comforting hearts she never saw. Their bond had turned into a bridge between grief and hope for countless souls. But even with all this, Keanu never pretended that he was healed. He carried his grief openly, showing the world that it was okay to still feel pain, even years later. And in doing so, he broke the false belief that time erases loss. He showed that true healing is not about forgetting. It is about remembering with love and living in a way that keeps that love alive. There was another moment that revealed this truth to the world. During an interview, when asked what happens to us after death, Keanu paused. The audience grew silent, waiting for his reply. Finally, with calm eyes and a steady voice, he said, "I know that the ones who love us will miss us." The room fell quiet, and for a moment, everyone felt the weight of his words. They were not just an answer. They were his heart speaking. Those words traveled across the world, shared millions of times. People cried reading them. They felt the honesty, the humility, and the love behind them. And in that moment, Jennifer's memory touched the world again, because it was her absence that shaped the depth of those words. Keanu's story showed something greater than one man's grief. It showed the power of carrying love forward, of turning pain into kindness, of living with humility even when the world gives you fame. It showed that respect and resilience can make even the heaviest sorrow into something meaningful. But their story was not yet complete. There was still one final lesson waiting to be shared. A truth that would make the world understand why the bond between Keanu and Jennifer was unlike any other, and why it continued to shine even after years of silence. Every story has an ending, but not every bond does. The bond between Keanu Reeves and Jennifer Syme proved this truth in a way the world could never forget. Their time together had been short, their loss had been deep, but their love lived on in ways that touched countless hearts. Keanu carried that bond not as a weight, but as a guide. It shaped his life, his choices, and his spirit. Every smile he gave, every act of kindness, every moment of humility was a reflection of what he had learned from loving and losing Jennifer. She had been the light in his darkest nights, and even though she was gone, that light continued to shine through him. The world watched and wondered how he managed to stay so grounded in a life filled with fame and pressure. The answer was simple. He never forgot what truly mattered. He never let grief turn to bitterness. Instead, he allowed grief to soften him, to teach him compassion. He believed that if love could be strong enough to survive loss, then kindness could be strong enough to heal hearts. There was a story told by someone who once worked with him during a film. After a long day, while everyone rushed to leave, Keanu stayed behind to help clean the set. When asked why he was doing it, he only smiled and said, "We are all in this together." Simple words, yet they revealed the essence of who he was. Fame had not lifted him above others. It had given him a platform to show humility. But his story was not only about kindness to strangers. It was also about courage to face his own pain. There were days when memories of Jennifer were so vivid that they brought tears to his eyes. He did not hide from those tears. He allowed them because he knew that love deserved to be remembered. And this became the final lesson of their bond. Love is not measured by how long it lasts, but by how deeply it lives within us. Their story proved that even after tragedy, love can still shape a life, still guide choices, still inspire the world. For those who had lost someone, Keanu's journey became a mirror. It told them, your pain is real, but so is your love. You may feel broken, but you are not alone. Your memories are not weakness, they are strength. In sharing his silence, his grief, and his compassion, Keanu gave hope to millions who thought their own wounds would never heal. And so, what began as a personal bond between two people turned into something far greater. It became a living example of resilience, humility, respect, and kindness. Jennifer's spirit, carried through Keanu, continued to touch lives across the world, reminding everyone that while life can be fragile, love is eternal. As Keanu once said in his quiet way, "Love never leaves us. It stays, it changes us, and it becomes the best part of who we are." Those words are not just his truth. They are the legacy of the bond he shared with Jennifer. Their story did not end with her passing. It continues in every life inspired by his kindness, in every heart comforted by his humility, in every person who chooses compassion because they saw it in him. This is why, when Keanu Reeves and Jennifer Syme shared memories, the world felt their bond. It was not only theirs anymore, it belonged to everyone who believed that love is the strongest power we carry,